What's up, everyone? I'm Ryan Wolt, and welcome to the very first Roast West Coast podcast all about coffee presented by Owl Podcasts. I'm just thrilled to be bringing this first season of the show to you. I love coffee and getting inspired by the entrepreneurs and innovators making things happen in the coffee industry today. Throughout season 1 of this show, I'll be sharing the stories of some of the very best West Coast roasters in the hyper-local community of North County, San Diego. I'll be interviewing roastery founders, head roasters, and directors of coffee. We'll learn about their coffee origin stories, why they're so passionate about the drink that they've made it the focus of their careers, about their roasting philosophies, how the coronavirus has impacted them and their businesses, and what they've got planned for this unusual holiday season. And we'll be learning about coffee too. I'll be asking Chris O'Brien, owner of Coffee Cycle in Pacific Beach, San Diego, and my own personal coffee sensei, all the coffee questions you might be craving the answer to. Things like how coffee is processed, what the difference is between first and third wave is, what variables, things like how water, grind size, and brew time impact the quality of your cup of coffee in the morning, and he'll even share some of his own secrets about how he picks and chooses the best beans to use in his own shop. As we work our way through Season 1, we'll be recapping everything and offering bonus content on roastwestcoast.com. To kick things off, Zumbar Coffee and Tea, one of the sponsors of this show, is offering 15% off their bulk bean orders online at zumbarcoffee.com. Just use the promo code ROAST15 in all capital letters at zumbarcoffee.com. Okay. This morning, I've been drinking the Zumbar Hummingbird Medium Roast, which I've been buying in bulk during the pandemic and was one of the key inspirations for even starting this podcast. It feels fairly appropriate because the first guest on the Roast West Coast podcast is Steve Rayle. He's the founder and head roaster at Zumbar Coffee and Tea. He's one of the original craft roasters in San Diego, and I was stoked to get a chance to talk to him. And now, it's time for another good cup of coffee and the show. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Ryan.
How are you, bud?
Good, yeah.
I'm doing good. Welcome to Roast West Coast.
Awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. I'm actually drinking one of your Hummingbird coffees right now.
Nice.
And I hate to admit it, but I kind of burned the crap out of it. So I apologize. I apologize to you. I got distracted, and all of a sudden I was looking at my timers, and it was all over the map.
It happens.
You're the owner and founder of Zumbar Coffee and Tea, right?
Yep.
And I got a bunch of questions. I think the first thing I wanted to ask you about is your name, Zumbar, and kind of where it came from. It's a unique Spanish name. Yeah.
So when I first started, I had my idea to open a coffee business. It took me a month of, searching around for different names and kind of at wit's end, and I just looked into the Spanish-English dictionary and kind of flipped to the last page, and there it was, Zumbar. It means to buzz like a bee or hum like a motor, kind of to get the wheels turning. So I was like, okay, I like the feel of the name, and the meaning's right. So
yeah, naming a business kind of like naming a kid, like you really want it to be right, but you never really know.
Yeah.
And I named a business a while back, and I remember the only thing I saved from that business after it closed was the list of names we considered that didn't get picked. And so I have a piece of paper with all these names scribbled all over it, and just looking back at that reminds you of the process. But
yeah, it's tough. I mean, you gotta have there's gotta be a feel to it, and it has to say something, obviously. So
well, and it sounds like
when I see business names, I think, oh, did those people put thought into what they named their business, or did they just kind of come up with something?
Just jumped on it. It sounds like once you opened the book and saw it, that was kind of it. You knew this is Zumbar. So that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of which, you guys were founded way back in 2003.
Right.
So you're like the elder statesman of the hipster craft coffee game, right? I mean, I can't imagine there was a ton of local coffee roasters around back, 17 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I started this business, I was house sitting in Seattle. I had gone traveling for quite a while, and then I came back. My parents lived up in Washington. My sister lived in Seattle, and I had an opportunity to house sit for a while. So I wasn't looking to get back into the jobs that I had before, which I really wasn't into, and I wanted to start my own business. I was actually thinking about doing a tea business, but I was in Seattle, and I was kind of thinking, well, maybe tea and coffee to get started. And then started going around to different coffee roasters in Seattle and, basically fell in love with coffee roasting. And so, at that point, I'd grown up in San Diego, so I knew I wanted to be back down here. I'm a big surfer and stuff. So, yeah. So, once I decided coffee roasting, I had actually bought the coffee roaster, had it shipped up to Seattle, did, all the repairs and renovation to get it going up in Washington State on Whidbey Island, and then came down here and said, yeah, I'm going to open a coffee roasting business, just like the few of the places that were going in Seattle. So the one place in particular that I learned a lot of info from was Lighthouse Roasters in Seattle. And that guy's been doing it forever, and he's king of just like, I'm going to roast good coffee and serve it out, serve it to people out my door. I'm not going to, zero marketing, zero advertising, and just, service with a smile, make quality coffee, and, away we go. And he's just done so awesome in his business. So yeah, it's like I wanted to open something similar to that. And I came down here and, started looking around for places and realized it was going to be a pretty big venture. So in 2003, that's when I started with a little coffee cart and outside of Intuit in University City over there, and did that for about a year and a half while I was kind of planning how to get this business off the ground. And then I found my spot in Sorrento Valley, and then dove in head first, and here I am.
It's interesting that you found Lighthouse, and that kind of brought you or started you on a path. I think two things that you said that were really interesting. One is that because there's always these pockets of people doing niche quality craft that eventually become trendy, whether it's coffee or beer or working with leather or something. And people go, well, this is like the newest, coolest thing ever. And it's like, well, no, people have been doing this. You just, they were in their world, and the people that knew them. And that was kind of it. Yeah. And that's always a cool thing to feel part of in a community, that the person who's like the guy or the girl or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, because in Seattle, there's obviously Seattle has been doing coffee for a lot longer than San Diego as far as, craft arts and coffee. And there's a few places this was probably 2000, I think. So there was a few pretty big name places already going out, that Debauchery, Lighthouse, Cafe Vita. Those were some of the big names in Seattle. And then kind of the whole micro roaster retail thing started to explode a couple of years afterwards. But
you had mentioned
it was a scene. And, what's that?
I was going to say, you mentioned that you bought the roaster and you had to kind of repair it and get it operational. And you talk about on your website too, in your location, you're into it in the tech sector, the technology behind coffee as well. But there's manufacturing, like this physical repairs and building component to coffee roasting as well, that I don't think people realize when they just order their cup and they see it being prepared, or they're at home and they make it in their machine. Was that something you were always kind of handy with, or was that something you were expecting going into it, doing all that kind of hands-on work? Or even like being in the tech, I have a little bit of experience of being around some coffee nerds who get really into like laser refraction and stuff. And I'm like, where is this? How did this progress that way? Was that something you knew you were into, or was it like, no, I just want to make some good coffee? And
no, it's been a major learning experience. So I did learn a lot from Lighthouse Coffee. I learned a lot about roasting and roasters and afterburners and the whole setup. But once I started going on my own, all of the problems with my setup started to arise. So it's been, it's kind of been and I'm still actually modifying things and, improving the way we do things. It's been a constant learning experience. And the thing about it is if that machine goes down, my business goes down, right? And you don't just call someone up. Maybe there's some more places to call these days, but in the past, it's like, it's not so easy to just call someone up and have them come out and fix your coffee roaster. So it's really been up to me to maintain it, to make sure that all the little sounds that are happening are not something that's going to become a major problem, and to just fine tune things. The coffee roaster, it's fairly simple. There's a few bearings on it and a few, there's a blower fan and things like that. So it's a simple piece of equipment, but it gets hot, it gets cool, the metal changes, and it's going for 8 hours a day, right? So a lot of things can happen, but over and above that, it's connected to the afterburner, and that all works together. So the afterburner is basically burning the exhaust of the coffee roaster. That's what you have for the EPA regulations to make sure we have clean air. And with my setup, it's been particularly sensitive. The afterburner has been particularly sensitive to the airflow going through the coffee roaster. So that's kind of been a big thing that I've had to deal with through the years.
Sure.
It's learning about the afterburner. I've had to replace the burner on the afterburner. I've had to replace the fan on the afterburner. I've had to learn all the duct work. I've got in my attic, I've got just 8-inch pipes that are angles and elbows and all sorts of pipes and duct work and stuff. So it's just been constant, but it's also a part of the job that I really love, because I feel like it is my own system that I'm working on, and that I have all the tools, or I have the ability to improve it and make it operate efficiently and to the best of our capabilities. So
sure, it's not as if somebody.
To answer your question, I did not expect to be doing this all the time, but I had to learn.
Well, it's kind of like it's saying as if somebody went to, like, say, a coffee school and learned about roasting, they couldn't just step into Zumbar's roastery and make everything work properly, because it's years of building. It has a lot to do. I feel like most people would echo this sentiment. It has a lot to do with your machine, and my machine is the only machine that I have experience with. So, I would love to roast on different operating, different roasting systems, but, this is the machine that I own, and this is what I know about. If I went to a different coffee roasting company and they had the same exact machine, it would still be, there would be some similarities, I'm guessing, but just by the nature of the machine, where it's set up, how the ducting is, so on and so forth, it's a different system. So you kind of have to learn it from scratch. So, yeah. So it's not just a matter of knowing when to add heat or, reduce the heat. It's a matter of understanding how this machine, heats and cools and operates. And that's definitely through experience. Yeah. Yeah, it's got its own ecosystem almost within the machine.
Sure.
It kind of reminds me of some other things that you get into that maybe you don't realize are going to lead you down this path of expense, like mountain biking. You buy a mountain bike, and the next thing you know, you've spent thousands of dollars on components and things, and you're 10 years, you got, or surfing, and you've got board upon board. But craft beer is another one, like you have one craft beer, and the next thing you know, you're vacationing around craft beer.
Yeah.
You guys have a collaboration, a longstanding one with New English Brewing, don't you?
Right.
How did that come about? And it's an Imperial Stout. I'm trying to think of the name.
Yeah, it's called the Zumbar Coffee and Chocolate Imperial Stout.
Right.
So it's an awesome beer. I love it. Yeah, he's won a few golds. I think he's won 2 golds at the GABF. Mm-hmm. And he's won some other awards with it. So I love the beer. It's super awesome. And the story of that is, honestly, he's set up right down the road from us. And, one day I was driving home and saw his brewery little sign on the side of the street. Like, oh, cool, there's a brewery there. Stopped in, and, we just got to chatting. And he, when he was ready to make a coffee stout, he looked us up, and it's been going ever since. So
I was also going to ask you about sourcing of beans. I was reading on your website a little bit about it, the process of it, and that you work with a broker. But how does that relationship work, and why is the source of beans so important, I guess, to the end product?
The source of beans, obviously, coffee is one of those things where to make the best cup, to make the best product, it's really start to finish, that you have to have an emphasis on quality. So at the farm level, first of all, you need to have the right plants growing. You need to have the right farming processes, right? And you need to have, obviously, good weather So step by step, so processing techniques, how meticulous is this producer to what they're doing? Are they picking red cherries? How is the coffee processed? So there's a lot of things that go into that side of the business. And then from there, it gets exported and it gets imported and, it goes through transition. So there's a lot of hands that it changes until it gets to, stateside. So you want to be confident in who's handling it and how they're handling it, and that everything is done above board. So sourcing is making sure that you are able to access quality. And then over and above that, I think it's telling a story and making sure that you're approaching it with integrity. So traceability is an important thing. We want to make sure that people who grow the coffee are being paid, a sustainable wage, right? I mean, especially if they're coming up with a quality product, to get them to want to continue that, right, there has to be a reason. So, and obviously a lot of these countries where coffee is grown, they're not paid like we are in the States. So, and, any social improvement projects, schools, things like that, it's important to understand that your money, and it's not possible, I don't think, with every single coffee that you buy, but I think it's important to a lot of people that you see that your money is going to help that side of the business and be a fair price is being paid for the coffee, that you can tell the story of where the coffee's been grown, how it's been grown, who grew it, and then on top of that it's excellent, right? That it's scored, a high cup quality. So for us, it's a combination of, we've visited different countries and different origins, and some of the coffees that we bring in are the farms that I've been able to visit. And a lot of it is coffee that we work through trusted sources where there is traceability all the way to the farm level.
Very cool.
So it's very important. Yeah.
It's kind of like, buying from the farmer's market or buying organic food. And I think now more than ever, maybe people are more aware of what they're eating and drinking. There's just been kind of a burst of information just on a mainstream level. Hey everyone, I will be right back with the second half of my conversation with Steve Rayle. But first, some words about Zumbar Coffee and Tea. They're one of San Diego County's premier coffee roasters and cafes since 2003. I've been buying their beans by the pound. I order on the website zumbarcoffee.com, and a freshly roasted batch of coffee shows up on my doorstep just a few days later. If I feel motivated to interact with the rest of the world, I can always go on zumbarcoffee.com to order a latte to pick up at either of their Sorrento Valley or Cardiff locations, and then grab a fresh beans to go while I'm there. All the details are on zumbarcoffee.com, and don't forget to use the Roast15 promo code on your bulk bean orders. If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to check out roastwestcoast.com for a lot more coffee content, including show transcripts, recaps, promotions, and consider subscribing to the bonus content which directly supports this show. Anyone signing up for the paid subscription gets 20% off forever as long as they sign up before Friday, November 13th. A special thanks to Amber Keaton for being a supporter and just a generally awesome human being. And now, back to the show. And speaking of which, one of the things that we lost this year for a while was farmers markets because of coronavirus, which has impacted everybody. But how has it impacted you guys, and how have you adapted? I know you guys were already doing delivery beforehand, which is I didn't know until coronavirus. But what other ways has it hit you guys, and you've adjusted?
It's strange. Our Cardiff location is actually a little bit busier than it was before. And we have a little bit shorter hours there. Our Sorrento Valley location is quite a bit slower, and that is because, all of those businesses that are right down there are all working from home. So our regular clientele is just not there anymore. So we're probably 60% or something that in the retail door. But, a few of the restaurants that we supplied coffee to have closed down. So we've lost some of our wholesale, but the thing that's increased has been our online bulk coffee orders that get shipped to people by mail. So, that's gone way up. So as that started to happen, we figured out that all of these problems that were, happening on our website as far as the process and realizing like, hey, this is pretty inefficient the way that we're doing this right now. So we've made it a lot better. There's still room for improvement, but we've made it a lot better as far as the ordering process and not having, mistakes all the time. And then we've made things a lot more efficient too. We've also, we've cut down, we used to roast 6 days. Now we roast 4 days, and only 3 of those days are we shipping coffee or fulfilling wholesale orders. And it's made it actually quite a bit more efficient and honestly allowed us more time on the production side to spend a little bit more time analyzing and cupping coffee and doing the things that are feed into a quality approach. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, we're doing fine. We've scaled, we've cut our staff a little bit. We had to cut our staff a little bit, but overall, the retail business is still at a reasonable level, and our coffee shipping is up a lot, and our, efficient operations, I would say, has gone up quite a bit. So
sure, I would imagine the first thing people started to do was look at places where there was money being spent unnecessarily.
Right.
I think about, as a former operator of a restaurant, that's what I would do. I would try to find those gaps, and I would try to find those gaps anyway, but you're always
right.
kind of working to improve, and this really forced that upon a lot of people that maybe were, you get so busy doing a lot of work. There's a lot to be done. I mean, just in our conversation, you've talked about repairs, production, retail. I mean, there's a million things to keep track of, and so this really had to hyper-focus people. Entering the holiday season, is there anything you guys are doing? Do you guys have any plans? Just continuing to promote delivery, or what do you guys got going on?
The holiday season just seems to be people buy bulk coffee, and that's the best for our business. That's really what I want to sell. Lattes are great, but if someone comes in and buys a latte and a bag of beans, then that's the best. And so, Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday, people are buying gifts or buying coffee for home. So it just seems to explode at that time period. We've never really done specials or anything like that. We've just had a focus on making sure we have fresh coffee on the shelf, ready for people, and understanding that they're coming in and they're going to be buying, that our levels are going to be going up 2-3 times what they normally are. So, we have as far as our coffee, when you come to our stores, we have a 4-day shelf life. So you can expect to buy coffee that's on the shelf within 4 days after the roast date. So that makes it challenging to always keep the stock at the right, available. So, I think that's our big focus when the holidays come around, is just to make sure that we're prepared for this and to make it work well and have the product for people.
Sure.
So
I'm going to ask you 2 questions here to kind of end this. And one is, anything else you want us to know about Zumbar, the listeners who may have known of you or don't know, anything about your story you want them to know? And then 2, what kind of coffee do you drink?
Oh, okay. Let's see. What would I want the listeners to know? Yeah, I think that I would want to impart that we're really like a coffee company with, first of all, an approach towards quality. So, it's really finding ways all the way through the process, from sourcing, from roasting, from making espresso, brewing coffee. It's a continual focus on like, how can we do this better? What can we do to make this better? So we're constantly improving. And I think that's why we have staff that hangs out around for a while. And that's why I think people, including myself, enjoy working there, because it's not just go to work and do the same thing over and over. It's go to work and like, how can we make this better? What's exciting? What can we do? So I think that is interesting to note about our company. And I think it's also that we take more of a classic approach to espresso and coffee. Our espresso roast is maybe a little bit darker than what some of the other companies are doing today. And we pull our shots ristretto style, which is a little bit more concentrated. And that's kind of the style that we've focused on from the beginning. And it's still the style that I'm in love with. We do, as far as filter coffee, we do some more light to medium roasts or like single origin coffees. And, I enjoy that aspect too. But really, it's a classic approach, and it's very simple. No frills. We have chocolate. We don't have vanilla. We really try to focus in on the coffee and just getting that right. So that's probably what I'd want people to understand about Zumbar if they plan to visit or buy coffee from us. And then what do I drink? So typically, I'm an Americano person, so I have a short 8-ounce Americano. That's what I drink. That's what my daily cup is. And then midday, I like to have a shot of espresso. And then as far as brewed coffee, I'm really we serve French press, and I love French press coffee. I don't think everyone agrees with me, but I love French press coffee. I also enjoy, pour over or any filter coffee with the, lighter roast, that brings out some of the flavor nuances and characteristics and makes a clean cup. And it's all challenging. It's that quest to make a perfect cup and to create something that's exceptional. So.
Well, that's awesome. It's exciting to hear as a customer that, after being open as long as you have, that you're still excited and still striving to do that, so I commend you on that. And I'd say cheers to you and thanks for joining the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, that's it. Episode 1. It's in the books. A big thank you to Steve Rayle for coming on the show and for making some fantastic coffee. One of the best ways for you to support Zumbar Coffee and Tea is to buy bags of coffee beans. Order them online at zumbarcoffee.com and have them shipped to your address, or visit one of the 2 locations and purchase beans on the spot, along with a handcrafted cup of coffee. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Zumbar Coffee, and you can always find links in this show's notes or on roastwestcoast.com. Thank you for joining me for the next few months while we explore the coffee roasters of North County, San Diego. And be sure to follow along and write reviews wherever you're listening to great podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and basically everywhere. Later this week, Chris O'Brien, founder of Coffee Cycle, will begin our official coffee education with some tips for first-time coffee drinkers. Before I sign off, I want to thank the Coast News Group for collaborating with me on this project. Check out thecoastnews.com's podcast directory. You'll find this show there, and plenty of other great content, including the North County Beat podcast hosted by Kelly Kyle. This episode of the Roast West Coast podcast was produced and recorded by me, Ryan Wolt, and I'm exhausted. I probably need yet another cup of coffee. Thanks for listening and subscribing to the bonus content at roastwestcoast.com. Be swell out there, try to stay sane, and as always, be sure to drink good coffee. Whew. Well, that's 1. 9 more to go.